When Jehovah created humans, He created them as pre-moral agents. Why did He do that? Because Jehovah desires that people walk with Him, not out of compulsion, but from their own hearts, based on what they see, feel, and experience. However, what is the world like today? Day by day, moral standards seem to fall lower and lower. When I was young, if children misbehave in an alley, adults would come out and sternly scold them. In those days, children would scatter and run away, at least pretending to fear the adults. And what about the adults back then? They believed it was their duty to discipline and correct children when they did wrong. But how about today? If young people were to misbehave in an alley, would any elderly person dare to rebuke them? It would likely be difficult because saying the wrong thing could lead to big trouble. As a result, the tendency of this world to drift away from God and assert independence only grows stronger. Perhaps many of you feel the same. When we look at the people around us, don't we sense how brazen and shameless they have become? It almost feels like there's a competition to see who can be more audacious. Why has the world become this way? Among God's creations, who was the most brazen? Yeah, that's right. It was Satan the devil who rebelled against God, his creator and father. Reflecting on this, we can see that the atmosphere pervading this world comes from what Ephesians chapter 2 verse 2 calls the spirit of the world. It originates from the shameless Satan the devil. So how are people living their lives today? They are consumed by what is visible, by physical desires, and by their ambition for self-promotion. They pursue these desires fervently, claiming, I am free and no one controls me. But is that truly the case? If we think objectively, are not people increasingly becoming slaves to these desires? The Bible puts it this way. Let's look at Romans chapter 6 verse 16. Do you not know that if you present yourselves to anyone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one you obey, either of sin leading to death, or of obedience leading to righteousness? This reminds us that while people may feel free, they are, in reality, enslaved to their desires and choices. Is not that true? Then, what is needed to escape this slavery to sin and enjoy true freedom? First, we need to acknowledge that we are sinners. Some may hear the word sin and think, what crime have I committed? Am I a criminal? To understand what it means to be a sinner, we need to go back to the early history of mankind. When God created Adam and Eve, how much did He give them? He provided an abundance of fruit for them to eat and took the time to have conversations with them. God also brought animals to Adam, allowing him to observe them and name them. And the names Adam gave them became their names. Through such experiences, Adam must have developed a deep sense of obedience to God, witnessing His amazing qualities firsthand. However, God gave Adam an important command, recorded in Genesis chapter 2 verse 16 and 17. Jehovah God also gave this command to the man, from every tree of the garden you may eat to satisfaction. But as for the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, you must not eat from it, for in the day you eat from it, you will certainly die. When Adam heard these words, he would have understood their seriousness. Let's imagine the situation. Adam and Eve were together, and Adam may have explained to Eve that God had given them an abundance of fruit, created many animals, and promised them the prospect of living forever with their offspring. He also would have clearly conveyed that eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and bad would result in death. But what happened? Eve was completely deceived by the serpent and ate the fruit. And what was Adam's response? He willfully disobeyed God. As a result, Adam lost his perfection and passed imperfection on to his descendants. As Genesis chapter 3 verse 19 states, "You are dust, and to dust you will return," meaning Adam faced death. God, foreseeing that Adam and Eve's children would be born imperfect, was deeply saddened. However, He prepared a gift for their descendants, a provision for their salvation. This is the ransom sacrifice that we are familiar with. To fully appreciate the ransom provision, we must consider the close relationship between Jehovah God and Jesus. Parents often develop a deep bond with their children over 20 to 30 years of raising them. Similarly, Jesus had been with God for billions of years, assisting in His creative works. They must have shared countless conversations, and Jesus faithfully followed God's teachings. This firstborn son was incredibly precious to Jehovah. But in the Garden of Eden, Jehovah's holy name was dishonored. God had to sanctify His name, which involved addressing various issues. When will that time come? Let's consider an illustration. Imagine someone holding a photograph of a tree. In the background, the actual trees are in late autumn or winter, and all their leaves have fallen. What might the person holding the photograph be thinking? Perhaps they are imagining how, as time passes, spring will return and the trees will once again flourish with green leaves, just like the picture shows. What about us? How certain is the promise God has made to us? Now let's look at the final illustration. Soon, we will be living happily in a paradise, just as depicted in the image. When we focus not on ourselves, but on fulfilling God's will, the happy life He has promised will become a reality for all of us.